We get so stuck in this identity of not being able to accomplish this thing because before we've even given ourselves the chance to try, we've already decided we can't do it. So you leave no opportunity, you leave no window for you to actually go in there and prove yourself wrong. You've written the story before it's even started. Welcome to the Mindset Gym podcast, where we exercise your way of thinking to help unlock your hidden potential. I'm your host, Emily Irwin, a registered nurse and holistic nutritionist with a passion for all things health, fitness, and personal development. All right, let's get into it. Hi, and welcome back to the Mindset Gym podcast. I hope you're having an amazing start to your day. I have an exciting conversation for you guys today because I think this is something that we are all very guilty of from time to time. I think this is something that a lot of us struggle with. And I'm going to go over 5 ways that we are getting it wrong and some tips that we can use to fix it. In Bonnie Ware's Regrets of the Dying, Bonnie talks about her career as a palliative care nurse and the patients that she met who had gone home to pass away. In this, she outlines the top 5 most common regrets of these patients. One of those regrets was wishing that they had the courage to live a life that was true to themselves, not one that was based on what others expected of them. I think you're probably hearing that and immediately getting a sense that you can relate. We all have a tendency to self-sabotage a little bit in this area. So what are some ways that we are fucking it up for ourselves when it comes to creating a life that we truly love? I think the first thing that we are getting wrong when it comes to creating a life that we love and moving through the actions of actually making that a reality, we shut ourselves down from the ability to actually dream big. I think sometimes the thought of accomplishing something that feels so big and so far away from what you are currently doing can feel really scary and can feel really impossible for us to actually do in practice. And so to save ourselves the anxiety of having to go after it and the potential heartbreak of trying and failing at it, we don't allow ourselves to dream about it at all. We almost shut it down from even being a possibility, even an imaginary one, because allowing ourselves to really want it in that sense makes it so much harder to not have it. So we close the door completely and we don't allow ourselves to feel any potential hurt from not getting where we wanted to go or accomplishing a certain goal that we wanted to achieve. The second thing that we tend to do has a lot to do with the way that we speak with ourselves. We've talked quite a bit on this show already about self-talk and the way that we talk to ourselves throughout our day-to-day. Telling yourself that you can't is a common thing that we all do, especially with that internal dialogue. We tend to be very, very self-critical, and we doubt our ability to do the things that we may need or want to do in life. And we often tend to look at things from this negative, I can't do it, what if it fails, what if it doesn't work out kind of mindset, instead of looking on the positive side of those things and thinking, what if I succeed? What if I can do it? What if I'm able to do all these things? That's not typically the lens that we look at things at. And so we get so stuck in this identity of not being able to accomplish this thing because before we've even given ourselves the chance to try, we've already decided we can't do it. So you leave no opportunity, you leave no window for you to actually go in there and prove yourself wrong. You've written the story before it's even started. Joanna Fiat once said, "We live up to our own self-made prophecy." And that is very much what is at play when we speak to ourselves in that kind of negative, I can't do it, I'm not capable kind of way. The next thing that I think we are all extremely guilty of when it comes to thinking about what we want our life to look like and taking the steps to make the things that we want actually come to fruition is we get lost in society's expectations of us. There is a lot of people that are going to tell you how they think you should live your life and what dreams you should have, what milestones you should achieve. And I think sometimes we get so submerged in all of the information coming from other people about what we need to be doing, how we need to be doing it, in what order we need to be doing it, that we don't ever actually take the time to think about what you want or what you're expecting or wanting from this life, or whether these pre-written staples that other people have kind of instilled in you that you were going to hit at some point or another, if those are even milestones that you want. Is that something that you would enjoy if you actually got to that goal, if you actually achieved that thing? Is that a life that you want to live day to day? I think sometimes we never take the time to actually ask ourselves that. We never give ourselves the space to question whether or not somebody else's opinion of what our life should look like is really what we want our life to look like. And I think there's a lot of fear that can come with that, because we are, we're all raised in certain households and told that we should be a certain thing and we should do a certain thing and life looks a certain way, and that's the lens that you grow up with and that's the lens that you see the world through. And so taking the time to question that or deconstruct it in any sort of way and start to rebuild it in a way that aligns with you involves a lot of unknown. It involves a lot of questioning what you've become accustomed to knowing for several years of your life. It changes the lens in which you see the entire world sometimes. And so there can be a lot of fear around ever questioning any of those things, and especially around taking any action to maybe move away from them and create something different. Along with getting lost in other people's opinions and thoughts on where we should be going with our life, another thing that we tend to get wrong when we're thinking about what we want to accomplish, what we want to go after, what we may or may not achieve, is in our minds, we tend to paint failure as the worst case scenario. That tends to be like bottom of the barrel, the most awful thing that could come out of you going after any dream. And we paint failure as this really awful thing that we can't come back from. And so we've created such a negative connotation about it in our minds that if there's any possibility of us failing, we're not going to want to go towards the thing that we may potentially fail at. And so if there is a goal that you are wanting to go after, or if there's a change you're wanting to make in your life, maybe you're wanting to leave a job you've been at for several years and pursue a different career path, maybe you're wanting to sell your home and move to a different country, maybe you're wanting to go back to school after being out of it for years. We tend to look at the situation and the possibilities of how it may end, how it may play out, what our life is going to look like if I go after this thing and I change my current circumstances. What are the possibilities of where my life could go from there? And when we analyze failure and the possibility of failure, looking at any new pathway that we want to take in our life, we see it as this big, awful, horrendous thing. And the problem with that is that failure is not completely avoidable. It's something that you will probably encounter at some point if you're trying to make any big drastic change in your life. There's going to be setbacks, there's going to be learning curves, there's going to be times that you fail. And us seeing that as the worst case scenario makes that whole situation feel so scary that we're not going to want to approach it at all. We're not going to want to take any steps to actually try, because there's a possibility that this thing, this really awful thing over here, may happen. And I've done a whole episode talking about failure and the ways that we can shift our mindset around failure. I would recommend going and listening to that. It's a really good reference for moving through that particular mindset. But it can be a really huge roadblock for us when we're trying to make big change or go after a certain path or dream in life, especially if it's big, especially if it's way out of the norm of what maybe you grew up with, maybe you've been exposed to. If it's something very, very new and scary, that possibility of failure is going to be so prominent in your mind. And we need to start shifting our mindset around that and seeing it as an opportunity. And seeing it as something to get excited about, because you going after something new to create a life that you love, failing along the way just means you're learning. And it means that you were willing to try something different and you were willing to give yourself the opportunity to grow. See it as a sign of a win. The last thing that we tend to get wrong when it comes to thinking about our lives and thinking about the things that we want to accomplish is we always imagine or we always assume that we're going to have more time. I think oftentimes we do not realize just how short life can be. I saw a post somewhere, and I think I made a short about it at some point on this channel, but the average human lifespan globally is around 72 years, which only amounts to around 3,754 weeks. Which, when you break it up that way, that doesn't seem like a really substantial period of time. That feels a lot shorter. That instills a sense of urgency that may not be there when you're looking at it just in terms of years. And that's the average human lifespan. A lot of people don't get that long. So even though 3,754 doesn't seem like a lot of weeks, for a lot of us it's a lot less. And we tend not to realize the sense of urgency that I think we should be moving through our lives with. We tend to think that there's always going to be more time. There's always going to be a tomorrow. There's always going to be a next summer. There's always going to be next year or next Christmas or next this, next that. But one of those times there won't be a next one. One of those times, the experience that you're currently in of that particular moment is going to be your last. And I think it's going to sneak up on you faster than you realize. So the way that this gets in our way when it comes to planning a life that we want and creating a life that we want is we will often put off taking action, partially because of some of the other things I've already talked about, that kind of fear and anxiety and what ifs and I can'ts and all of these things give us a whole host of reasons why going after this thing is hard and scary. And so we'll put it off and we'll think, I'll apply for that job next year. I'll ask that person out when I feel ready. I'll book that trip when I have more money in the bank. We always assume there's going to be a next time or there's going to be a later. And we never allow ourselves to feel that real sense of urgency of this is your moment, this is your opportunity, this is your chance to do the thing that you're wanting to do. Because you may not get a do-over, you may not get a second chance or another day or another year to go back and do it again. If you want to do it now. Do it while you can. We have to stop assuming that we have more time and live our lives as if we don't. Now that we've gone over all of the things that we tend to commonly get wrong as it relates to creating the life that will really bring us joy and fulfillment, what are some things that we can do to fix this? And the first one I want to get into ties in a little bit to the first couple of things that we talked about. The fact that we don't allow ourselves to dream big. We will kind of shut ourselves down from thinking of these things sometimes. And that I can't mindset. So I'm going to tackle this, I guess, with my first and second tip. So the first one is asking yourself, what if? Any dream or change or goal that you are setting in your life, I want you to take some time to reflect on it and think about what it is. And then I want you to ask yourself, what if it works out? What if I accomplish this thing that I want to accomplish? What is my life going to look like? What is my day-to-day routine going to look like? How am I going to show up in the world in that scenario? Ask yourself these questions and imagine what it would look like. Allow yourself to really dive into the possibility that it could work out. Ask yourself, what if? The second thing that goes kind of hand in hand with the first is telling yourself that you can. Just like we talked about, consistently telling yourself that you can't, that you're not capable, that you're going to fail, that you don't know enough, you're not smart enough, you're not this enough. All of that is going to impact the way that you show up or don't show up in these situations. So flip that around. Start telling yourself that you can. Even if you maybe don't believe it in the moment, tell yourself that you will work and improve at this particular thing. And if you can't do it now, you will one day. There will be a day where you can. Tell yourself that you can, and go into it with the mindset that this is something you are going to accomplish and this is something you are going to succeed at, even if it is weeks, years down the road. The third thing that I want you to do to work on this is I want you to sit down and take some time to really think about what you want your life to look like. Not what your parents want your life to look like, not what your friends from high school want your life to look like, not what the neighbor down the street wants your life to look like. What do you want it to look like? Take the time to strip away all of the expectations, all of the things that other people are saying you need to be doing or you should be doing, and really think about what you want and really clearly identify it. So think about what you want your day-to-day life to look like. What do you want your financial situation to look like? What do you want your geographical location to look like? What kind of friends do you want to have? What kind of relationships do you want to have? What kind of impact do you want to make on this world? How do you want to feel in your day-to-day? Really clearly identify what you want these things to look like and allow yourself to think about what that is without the judgment and the weight of what other people have told you it needs to be. We often don't give ourselves the time to truly do this. We just get so lost in what everyone else is saying that we often don't take the time to really consider what would make us happy. What do you want at the end of the day? If no one else was around and no one else's opinion mattered and there was no expectations from anybody else in this world for you to be anything except for happy, what would you do? What would you make your life look like? Think about it, clearly identify it, and then start making a plan to work towards it. Once you have a clear identification of what it is that you want, it's much easier to start working towards that thing. And the fourth one kind of goes hand in hand with this, and that is to stop letting your dreams reside solely in your brain and take action. Stop letting those dreams just be things that you mull over for years and years and years. We will ruminate over wanting to do something for so long before we actually take action, and sometimes we never take action at all. So stop letting these things be something that just lives inside your brain and start taking steps to actually go towards it. And they don't have to be big. You don't have to make some big grand sweeping gesture towards this goal that you want to achieve. Just start really small. If you have a goal of moving to France one day, but you don't have the money, you don't have the means, you have no idea what it's going to look like, you don't have to book the ticket right away. Just go and start watching some videos of other people who live in France. Go and find a YouTube channel of somebody who has moved to France and who has made this happen for themselves and see what they did. Start educating yourself on the steps that you can take to slowly move in that direction. It doesn't mean uprooting your whole lifestyle today. It's just getting the ball rolling. It's just taking that first step and slowly, incrementally going towards the thing that you want. Because as you do that, you will gain knowledge and you will gain confidence along the way. And all this fear and anxiety that you have over this really big thing now is not going to be so huge by the time you actually reach that thing, because you have accumulated all this knowledge, all this ability, all of this understanding of what you're facing, and you are much better equipped when you get to that end point. And you end up being the kind of person that you wanted to be to show up for this thing because you were willing to take those steps to get there. Okay? And that's all I've got for you today. Stop being your own worst enemy and stop self-sabotaging the life that you want to live. You have one life. You don't get to go back and redo it. Make it what you want to make it. Make it something that you are proud of. Make it something that makes you happy. And make it something that's yours. All right, if you're still here, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time at the Mindset Gym. If you like the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, or share the show with a friend. Your support allows this show to reach even more amazing people just like you, and it means the absolute world to me. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time at the Mindset Gym.